in! This is my house!
This house is locked against cheating witches.
I'm not someone who expects much. Wake up, work, pay bills, drink mediocre coffee, standard adult routine. When my wife Emma's friend announced her wedding, I figured it'd be typical. Uncomfortable suit, bland chicken, maybe catch a buzz at the open bar. Simple enough. Turns out I wasn't attending a wedding. I was starring in my own humiliation show, except nobody told me I was the punchline while Emma played headliner. The venue screamed expensive, crystal chandeliers, champagne flowing everywhere. For maybe 15 minutes, everything seemed normal. Then Derek showed up at our table. Derek, perfect hair, unnaturally white teeth, confidence of someone who's never heard no. He works with Emma at some marketing firm downtown. According to every conversation for the past 8 months, Derek was basically Steve Jobs meets Ryan Gosling. Derek thinks this, Derek says that, Derek suggested that overpriced sushi place. Within 5 minutes, Derek convinced Emma to dance. Not just dance, full production value. Twirls, dips, the works. They hit that floor like they'd rehearsed for months, competing for the gold medal and making everyone uncomfortable. I sat there watching, nursing my whiskey, trying to look anywhere else. But my eyes kept drifting back to Emma and Derek, spinning around like they were auditioning for some reality show nobody asked for. Worst part? Everyone noticed. I felt other guests' eyes bouncing between the dance floor and me, sitting alone like leftover wedding cake nobody wanted. After their 4th consecutive dance, a group of women approached our table. One blonde in a spray-painted dress leaned over and asked Emma, "So, are you married?" Finally, acknowledgement of my existence. I waited for Emma to gesture toward me. Instead, Emma glanced at me, smirked, and said loud enough for half the table, "Not really, it doesn't count when he's boring." The group erupted in laughter, full cackling. Someone slapped the table. Another grabbed her friend's arm for support. I sat there, whiskey frozen halfway to my mouth. Did my wife, the woman I'd been married to for 6 years, whose student loans I helped pay off, really just tell strangers our marriage doesn't count because I'm boring? Apparently, yes. I didn't argue. Instead, I took a long sip, set the glass down, and went back to watching the room. Emma bounced back to the dance floor with Derek, her laugh echoing across the ballroom. Even the DJ glanced my way, then quickly looked away. Even he felt bad for me. I sat there 2 more hours watching my wife live her best life with a man who wasn't me, while guests made pitiful small talk. By the time we left, I'd made a decision. I didn't announce it or make a scene. I just watched Emma laugh at something Derek whispered as we walked to the car and thought with absolute clarity, people who don't exist can't be blamed when they disappear. Here's the thing about marriages that look perfect from outside. They're held together with duct tape, denial, and Instagram filters. Emma and I were professionals at the illusion game. On paper, we had it all. 3-bedroom house, 2 paid-off cars, vacation photos Emma posted with captions like, "Blessed life," and enough heart emojis to concern a cardiologist. Her followers ate it up. 300 likes minimum. Comments like, "You guys are perfect together." But underneath that curated perfection, our marriage had more cracks than my grandmother's phone screen. Then there was Derek. He wasn't just in the picture. He was the picture. Every conversation, every decision, every thought that passed through Emma's mind. It started small. Emma mentioned a new coworker good at presentations. Then it became, Derek thinks we should rebrand the campaign. And Derek suggested this Italian place. His name popped up more frequently than mine. First red flag. But the real kicker? Late night texts. Emma would sit next to me on the couch, phone would buzz. She'd glance, smile, something I hadn't seen directed at me since our honeymoon, and start typing with enthusiasm usually reserved for lottery tickets. I'd ask who she was texting at 10:47 p.m. "Oh, just Derek. We're working on a project." Because marketing campaigns definitely require constant communication during Netflix hours. Then came dinner suggestions. Every restaurant was Derek recommended. Work presentations became another battlefield. I'd offer to help. My suggestions dismissed faster than a telemarketer's call. Then Derek would offer input, and suddenly, it was genius. Revolutionary. I started keeping a mental tally of how many times Derek's name came up weekly. By Thursday, I'd hit 30. By Sunday, well into the 50s. Meanwhile, my opinions carried the same weight as a wet napkin. Every decision required Derek's approval. Repaint the living room? Let me ask Derek what color. Planning our anniversary? Derek went to this amazing resort. Deciding dinner? Derek says this Thai place is incredible. The worst part was how oblivious she seemed. Or maybe she knew exactly what she was doing and didn't care enough to hide it anymore. When someone's that comfortable disrespecting you, they've already checked out. I'd come home finding her texting on the couch, smiling at her phone like it won the lottery. "Good day?" I'd ask. "Yeah, fine," she'd respond without looking up. But when Derek texted, full attention, immediate response. Sometimes she'd laugh out loud at whatever witty observation he'd made. Our conversations became transactional. "Did you pay the electric bill? Can you pick up milk?" We were roommates with a joint checking account, going through marriage motions because neither of us had the energy to admit it was over. Date nights turned into obligation nights. Once a month, we'd get dressed up because that's what married couples do. We'd sit across from each other while she talked about work, which really meant Derek. I'd sit there cutting my overpriced steak, thinking about how I was basically funding my wife's emotional affair one dinner at a time. Friends started noticing. My buddy Kevin asked if everything was okay. "You seem distracted, man." I wanted to tell him my wife was so checked out she might as well file a change of address form. Instead, I said what every guy says when his life's falling apart. "Yeah, man, everything's fine." Our 6th anniversary was approaching, and despite all warning signs, I decided to be optimistic. I figured maybe if I planned something really thoughtful, something reminding us who we used to be before Derek became the third wheel, we could fix things. So I went old school romantic. I found this cabin in the mountains 3 hours north. Legit cozy cabin. Stone fireplace, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a lake, hot tub on the deck. I booked it for a long weekend, mapped out hiking trails, found a winery nearby, even made reservations at a farm-to-table place with 5-star reviews. I was excited presenting the idea to Emma. I'd printed pictures, made a folder with all the details, set it on the kitchen counter one evening with a bottle of her favorite wine. "Hey, so I've been thinking about our anniversary. I found this amazing cabin upstate. Fireplace, lake view, hiking trails. Thought we could disconnect for a few days, just us. What do you think?" Emma looked up from her phone, undoubtedly texting Derek, and glanced at the folder like I'd handed her a timeshare presentation brochure. She flipped through it for maybe 8 seconds. "A cabin," she said, nose wrinkling. "Michael, that's so isolated and rustic. What would we even do there? Talk? Hike? Relax?" "It seems kind of boring," she said, setting the folder down like it was contaminated. "Staring at trees for 4 days? I don't know. Boring. That word again. The word apparently summing up my entire existence. We could reconnect. No distractions. Just us." She said. Universal spouse language for, "I hate this idea." Then back to her phone. Conversation over. Next day, Emma came home from work bouncing with energy. "So I was talking to Derek today about our anniversary," she said, and my stomach immediately dropped. "And he told me about this incredible beach resort he went to last year." She pulled up photos with the enthusiasm of someone showing off their newborn. "Look at this place, Michael. It's gorgeous." I looked. One of those flashy resorts costing more per night than I make in a week. Infinity pools, beachfront cabanas, multiple restaurants, a spa. "It looks expensive," I said, code for absolutely not. "Derek says it's worth every penny. The sunsets are incredible and there's this restaurant right on the beach. Plus, there's plenty to do. Water sports, excursions, gym, spa. We wouldn't be bored." There it was again, bored. "Emma, I already booked the cabin. Non-refundable deposit." She waved her hand dismissively. "We can eat that cost. This resort is what we should do." Derek says, "I don't care what Derek says. This is our anniversary, not Derek's. Ours." She looked at me like I'd spoken ancient Greek. "Why are you being difficult?" I already planned something nice. Well, Derek's idea is better. We argued another 20 minutes, but the outcome was inevitable. Emma booked the resort that night while I sat on the couch watching my carefully planned romantic getaway evaporate. Week later, we flew to the beach resort. It was exactly as I'd imagined. Overpriced, overcrowded. About as romantic as a shopping mall on Black Friday. But Emma loved it. She spent 4 days taking photos of sunsets, fancy cocktails, her feet in sand, all immediately sent to Derek. Not to her mom, not her sister. To Derek. I watched her type messages, smile at his responses, laugh at whatever witty observations he made. Meanwhile, I perfected my new hobby, smuggling bread rolls from the breakfast buffet into my pockets. By trip's end, I'd accumulated 11 rolls. Honestly, they were the highlight of my anniversary. After that trip from hell, something clicked in my brain. Not like a light switch. More like a circuit breaker finally giving up. I was done. Not angry done, but cold, calculated, absolutely finished, done. The kind of done where you stop feeling hurt and start feeling clarity. Dangerous clarity. I realized trying to save this marriage was like resuscitating a corpse. Emma had checked out months ago. She was just sticking around for comfort, financial security, and the Instagram aesthetic of being married. Here's the thing about being underestimated. It gives you one hell of an advantage. I did what any self-respecting man would do. I called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, I did my research. I needed a shark. That's how I found James Peterson. His office was in one of those downtown buildings screaming, "I win cases and I'm not sorry." Marble floors, leather chairs, walls covered with framed degrees. James himself looked exactly like what you'd want in a divorce lawyer. Mid-50s, gray hair, expensive suit, eyes suggesting he'd seen every dirty trick in the book. "Mr. Thompson," he said, shaking my hand, "tell me about your situation." I laid it all out. The emotional affair with Derek, the constant disrespect, the anniversary hijacking, the wedding where she publicly declared our marriage didn't count. I even showed him screenshots of text messages I'd saved from Emma's phone. Messages to Derek definitely not about work. James listened without interrupting. When I finished, he sat back and steepled his fingers. "First question, do you want to save this marriage?" "No." "Good. Saves us time." "Second question, whose name is the house and—" "Mine. Bought it 2 years before we got married." James's face lit up. "Excellent. And your assets?" "Mostly separate. I have a 401k from before marriage, stocks my dad left me, and a savings account she doesn't know about. Just one joint checking account she has access to. I've been moving money out slowly." James actually smiled. "Mr. Thompson, I think we're going to get along just fine." Over the next hour, James laid out a plan so methodical, it would have made Sun Tzu proud. We weren't just filing for divorce. We were building a case. First, documentation. James wanted records of everything. Every text where Derek's name came up, every dinner receipt from their work meetings. Every time Emma chose Derek's opinion over mine. He told me to start a journal. Dates, times, conversations. Build a narrative showing emotional infidelity and marital abandonment. Second, financial protection. James walked me through opening new bank accounts, transferring assets, protecting what was legally mine. The house was safe. Purchased before marriage, title only in my name. My premarital 401k was protected. Stocks from my father's inheritance were untouchable. "How much is in the joint account?" "About 15,000. Leave maybe 5,000 so she doesn't notice immediately. Move the rest into your personal account. We don't want to tip her off before we're ready to file." Third, credit cards. We went through every shared card. James advised documenting all her charges, especially ones with Derek, and preparing to freeze or cancel cards when the time was right. Wait until right before we file. Day before we submit papers, you pull the plug on everything. Fourth, the house. Since it was in my name, I had legal right to change the locks, but James cautioned me to wait. "Do it the same day we file papers, and it's you securing your property during a legal proceeding. Timing is everything." Finally, evidence. James asked if I had proof of Emma's relationship with Derek. Photos, videos, witnesses. I told him about the wedding, how publicly she'd humiliated me. "Were there cameras?" "Yeah, the bride's teenage cousin was filming everything for social media." James's eyes lit up. "Get that footage. Video evidence of her publicly declaring your marriage doesn't count. That's gold in court." I left James's office 3 hours later with a retainer agreement, a battle plan, and cold determination. Over the next 2 weeks, I became a man on a mission. Opened 2 new bank accounts at a different bank. Transferred money in small increments, nothing large enough to trigger alerts. Started depositing my paychecks into the new account. I documented everything. Every time Emma stayed late at work, every time Derek's name came up, every dinner receipt I found. Bought a small notebook, kept it in my car, writing entries like an anthropologist studying cheating spouses. Started moving things out in small batches. Important documents first: birth certificate, social security card, passport, house title, insurance papers. Then sentimental stuff. Photos of my parents, my dad's watch, my grandmother's ring. Rented a storage unit across town. Made trips every few days. The joint credit card became a strategic tool. I monitored every charge Emma made, screenshotted every receipt, all documented. Even started sleeping in the guest room, telling Emma I had insomnia. She barely noticed. James called every few days for updates, like a coach preparing me for the championship game. 3 weeks after my first meeting with James, I sat in my car outside the house reviewing my checklist. Everything was ready. I pulled out my phone and texted James 2 words: file it. His response came 30 seconds later. Papers will be ready Monday. Let's end this. I walked into my house for one of the last times as a married man. Emma was on the couch, phone in hand, laughing at something on her screen. Probably Derek. She didn't even look up when I walked by. Perfect. She'd never see it coming. The bride's cousin from the original wedding, Sophie, came through like the MVP she was. Sunday afternoon, my inbox dinged with an email containing a zip file labeled wedding footage. I downloaded it immediately and spent the next hour sorting through footage. There it was, perfect quality, crystal clear audio. My wife in her expensive blue dress, surrounded by her giggling friends, delivering that iconic line. Not really. It doesn't count when he's boring. I clipped it. 10 seconds. No context needed. Just pure, unfiltered truth. Then I opened my email and crafted what would become the digital equivalent of a nuclear bomb. I added Emma's parents, Patricia and Robert, her sister Amanda, the brides from both weddings, and, this was the coup de grace, Derek's girlfriend Rachel. Because Derek had a long-term girlfriend he somehow forgot to mention during all those candlelit dinners with my wife. I'd found her through social media. Derek's Instagram had photos of them together, tagged with locations and dates that overlapped perfectly with his work dinners with Emma. Rachel seemed nice, normal. She deserved to know. Subject: truth about Emma and Derek. I think you should see this. Attached, wedding_truth.mp4. My cursor hovered over send for maybe 3 seconds. This was the point of no return. I clicked send. The email whooshed into the void. I sat back with my coffee, imagining it landing in inboxes across the city like cluster bombs of reality. My phone started buzzing within minutes. I muted it and made myself another coffee. Let them process. By evening, my voicemail was full. I listened to exactly one message from the original bride. Michael, I don't even know what to say. I'm so sorry. We all saw them at my wedding, but I didn't realize she'd said that. If I'd known, I would have said something. I'm really, really sorry. I saved it. Not because I needed the apology, but because it confirmed what I already knew. The video spoke for itself. Monday morning came with the energy of a heavyweight championship fight, except I was the only one who knew the match was happening. I woke at 6, made coffee, sat at the kitchen table watching the clock. The process server was scheduled to arrive at 8:30. Emma was usually up by 7 for work. At 7:03, I heard Emma's alarm, then footsteps. She was awake. The first sign of trouble came at 7:15 when I heard her trying the bedroom door. She'd locked herself in last night, probably to text Derek. Now she couldn't get out because the smart lock had revoked her access. What the hell? I heard her mutter. At 7:22, my phone rang. Emma's name flashed on the screen. Hello? I said, using my most neutral tone. Michael, what's going on with the locks? My bedroom door won't open and the app isn't working. Huh, that's weird. Maybe the system's down. Try your code. I did. It's not working. Well, I don't know what to tell you. Want me to come up and open it manually? Pause. Pride lost to practicality. Yes, please. I took my time walking upstairs, coffee in hand. When I got to her door, I punched in my new code, the one she didn't know, and the lock clicked open. Emma stood there in pajamas, phone in hand, looking at me like I just performed magic. How did you do that? What code did you use? The master code. Must be a glitch with your user profile. I'll look into it later. I turned and walked back downstairs before she could ask more questions. At 7:45, she came down for breakfast, already dressed, makeup half done. She went straight for her purse, pulled out her wallet. I need to stop for gas on the way to work, and maybe grab coffee. I watched as she pulled out her credit card, the one I'd frozen yesterday, and tucked it into her wallet without really looking at it. She grabbed her keys, phone, bag, and headed for the door. Have a good day, I called out. And I meant it. It was going to be a very interesting day for her. She left at 7:52. At 8:33, there was a knock on the door. I looked through the peephole and saw exactly what I expected. A middle-aged man in a polo shirt holding a manila envelope and clipboard. I opened the door. Can I help you? Are you Michael Thompson? That's me. Is Emma Thompson available? She left for work about 40 minutes ago. The process server consulted his clipboard. I have documents that need to be served to her personally. Do you know when she'll be back? Probably around 6, but you can leave them with me if you want. I'll make sure she gets them. He shook his head. Has to be personal service. I'll come back later. Can you give me her work address? I rattled off the address. The process server nodded, made a note, and headed back to his car. I watched him drive away and checked my watch. 8:37. Emma would be served at work in front of her coworkers. Probably right there in the office where she'd been conducting her emotional affair with Derek for the past year. Perfect. At 9:14, my phone rang. Emma's name. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Hey, Michael? Her voice was different now. Sharp. Stressed. My card declined at the gas station. I tried 3 times and it declined. That's weird. Maybe the machine was broken. No, I tried at Starbucks too. Same thing. Something's wrong with the account. Huh. I'll call the bank and check on it. Can you do it now? I'm standing here looking like an idiot. I had to borrow money from a coworker for coffee. I wondered if that coworker was Derek. Sure. I'll call them right now and let you know. I hung up, didn't call the bank, and went back to my coffee. At 11:47, all hell broke loose. My phone exploded with a call from Emma, and when I answered, I was greeted with rage I didn't know she was capable of. Michael Thompson. She practically screamed my full name. What is going on? I just got served divorce papers at my office in front of everyone. Some guy walked in with a clipboard and handed me a manila envelope in front of my entire team. Ah, so you got them. Good. I was worried the process server might miss you. Stunned silence. You planned this? Well, yeah. Divorce papers don't just materialize on their own, Emma. You're divorcing me? She said it like it was the most absurd concept she'd ever heard. Yes. I thought the papers made that pretty clear. The general theme is, marriage is over. You can't just decide this without talking to me first. Oh, like how you decided to emotionally cheat on me with Derek without talking to me first. That kind of mutual decision-making? We're not. Derek is just a friend. Right. A friend you dance with at weddings while telling people I don't count. A friend you text at midnight. A friend whose opinion matters more than your husband's. I could hear her breathing heavy, angry. This is insane. You're being ridiculous. Maybe, but I'm also done. The papers are filed, Emma. It's happening. We need to talk about this face-to-face. You can't just... Actually, I can. And I did. Oh, and before you come home to talk about it, you should know your keys won't work. Changed the access codes yesterday. Another beat of silence. What? The smart locks? Yeah, I removed your user profile from the system. Your codes don't work anymore. Your fingerprint won't work. Your app access is gone. So figure out alternative living arrangements. That's illegal. You can't lock me out of my own house. Technically, it's my house. My name on the deed. Bought it before we got married. But, hey, you can call a lawyer and ask them about it. Oh, wait, you should probably get a lawyer anyway since you're about to be divorced. Michael, this is crazy. You're acting crazy. No, Emma. I'm acting like someone who's tired of being treated like he doesn't exist. There's a difference. I heard rustling on the other end, then Derek's voice in the background. Emma, is everything okay? Of course he was there. Is that Derek? Tell him I said hi. And also tell him to check his email. His girlfriend, Rachel, might have sent him something interesting. What did you do? Emma's voice dropped to something between horror and panic. I sent Rachel a video from the wedding. You know, the one where you declare our marriage doesn't count while dancing with her boyfriend. Figured she deserved to know what kind of guy she's dating. You sent... She couldn't even finish the sentence. I heard Derek in the background asking what was wrong, his voice climbing in pitch. Emma, I have to go. I'm expecting a call from my lawyer, but hey, good luck with everything. And maybe check that joint bank account. You might want to add some funds before your next coffee run. What did you do to the account? Nothing illegal. Just moved my money to my account. You're welcome to whatever's left. I think it's like $47. Should cover at least half. A tank of gas. She made a sound somewhere between a scream and a sob. You can't do this to me. Emma, I'm not doing this to you. I'm doing this for me. Big difference. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a house to enjoy without you in it. I hung up and immediately blocked her number. The phone rang again 5 seconds later from a number I didn't recognize. Blocked. Then another call. Blocked. Then Derek's number appeared. I let that one ring through to voicemail just so I could listen to it later for entertainment. His message was exactly what I expected. Confused, angry, demanding I call him back to talk about this like adults. I deleted it and blocked his number too. My phone became a symphony of blocked calls for the next hour. Emma's mother called twice. Her sister called 3 times. Even Emma's father called once, which was notable since we'd spoken maybe 4 times in 6 years. I blocked them all. By evening, my phone had quieted down. The blocked calls stopped, probably because everyone figured out I wasn't answering. Emma was presumably somewhere with Derek, crying about how her boring husband had betrayed her by refusing to be boring anymore. I ordered pizza, cracked open a beer, sat on my couch in my house, watching Monday Night Football. It was the first evening of the rest of my life. The first night in months where I didn't have to wonder if my wife was texting another man. The first night where I didn't have to pretend everything was fine. It was the first night of freedom, and it tasted better than any anniversary dinner ever had. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from an unknown number. "Michael, this is Rachel. Thank you for sending that video. I didn't know. I'm sorry for what you've been going through." I stared at that message for a long moment, then typed back, "You deserve to know. Good luck with everything." She responded with a simple thumbs up emoji. At least one person appreciated the truth bomb I'd dropped. I finished my pizza, turned off my phone completely, and went to bed at 9:30. Best sleep I'd had in 6 years. If I thought Emma would accept reality like a reasonable adult, I clearly hadn't been paying attention. By Tuesday morning, my phone was flooded with messages from people I hadn't heard from in years. Distant cousins, old college friends, that guy I played softball with 3 summers ago. Apparently, Emma had decided that if she was going down, she was taking my reputation with her. The narrative she'd constructed was a masterpiece of creative fiction. According to Emma's version, I was the villain, the jealous, controlling husband who'd imagined an affair that didn't exist, the paranoid psycho who'd locked his innocent wife out of her own home for no reason, the cruel fool who'd humiliated her at work. Never mind that she'd been emotionally cheating for months. Never mind that she'd publicly humiliated me at 2 weddings. Never mind that the house was legally mine. Facts were irrelevant when Emma was in damage control mode. But here's what Emma and Derek didn't know. Their little narrative had a fatal flaw. Evidence. Because while they were busy rewriting history and painting me as the bad guy, I had documentation. Screenshots of texts, restaurant receipts, credit card statements showing work dinners that happened on weekends, witnesses from 2 separate weddings. And most importantly, I had video. Clear, undeniable 10 seconds of my wife saying those exact words. Not really, it doesn't count when he's boring. Emma's carefully constructed narrative was crumbling, and all it took was 10 seconds of unedited truth. 6 months later, I was standing in my new downtown condo, coffee in hand, watching the sunrise over the city skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows. The divorce was finalized. Clean, quick. Entirely in my favor. Turns out when you have documentation, video evidence, and a lawyer who enjoys winning, things go pretty smoothly. Emma lost more than the marriage. Her parents stopped funding her lifestyle after watching that video on repeat. Her friends gradually distanced themselves once they realized she'd been lying about everything. Last I heard, Emma was waitressing at some chain restaurant, sharing a cramped apartment with 3 roommates who probably didn't know she used to have a house with a husband who paid for everything. Derek. His career imploded beautifully. Rachel didn't just dump him. She posted the wedding video on her social media with a caption that went viral. His LinkedIn became a ghost town. His job prospects dried up faster than his fake charm. Me? I sold that house for a ridiculous profit and bought this place. A sleek 2-bedroom condo with a view that made every morning feel like a victory lap. Quiet, peaceful, mine. No drama, no Derek, no fake laughter echoing through rooms that never felt like home. People ask if I'm dating again? Not yet. I'm too busy enjoying the sound of silence and the freedom of not being someone's punchline. Boring? Maybe. But if boring means no cheating wives, no emotional affairs, and no credit card bills for dresses worn to impress other men, then boring is exactly what I'll be. I raised my coffee mug to the skyline and smiled. Here's to boring, I said to the empty room, and for the first time in years, I meant it as a compliment.